Breaking news, people grab your popcorn, lock your doors, and mute your auntie's WhatsApp notifications because the internet just got handed the kind of chaos that reality TV producers dream about but can never quite script. I'm talking slaps, secrets, and a pregnancy bomb so explosive it makes every soap opera look like a kindergarten nap time. Sierra, Mendeecees, and Yandy have officially turned dinner into the Hunger Games. And trust me, no one walked away without scars, receipts, or a Twitter thread now. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been so blindsided at dinner that you thought the mashed potatoes were about to file a police report? Have you ever seen a slap so loud it could trend on Spotify as a remix? Because that's exactly what went down when Yandy decided to drop her truth bomb, right? In the middle of what should have been a chill evening, Sierra's fork didn't even make it to her mouth before she discovered she was living in a live-action betrayal saga. And of course, the internet exploded faster than Mendeecees' excuses. Was it bravery? Was it betrayal? Or was it Yandy secretly auditioning for the role of Agent of Chaos in the next Marvel movie? Stay tuned because what I'm about to tell you will make you question loyalty, friendship, and possibly your own choice of dinner guests. So let us rewind and really break this down because what happened? At that dinner table was not just some petty little argument, it was a scandal building. For months behind the scenes, and finally it exploded. In the most dramatic fashion possible, with Sierra front and center. Mendeecees sitting there acting like he had no idea what was going on. And Yandy looking like she had been waiting for this exact moment to unleash chaos and grab the spotlight. And if you think this was just another reality TV spat, then you are already underestimating how deep this rabbit hole goes, because when you bring up Sierra, you are talking about someone who has been trying to balance her reputation like a tightrope walker over a pit of flames, always selling the narrative of loyalty, of being the bigger person, of being the one who held things together while the world questioned her choices. But the truth bubbling underneath has always been that Sierra has secrets that she thought would never see the light of day. And, unfortunately for her, Yandy walked into that dinner with a flashlight and a megaphone ready to drag those secrets out into the open in front of everyone. Now, Mendeecees is no stranger to scandal himself. This man has spent years brushing off accusations, dodging messy headlines, and building this image of a reformed family man who only wants peace. But the streets have a long memory, and the fans on social media never forget the whispers about missing money, shady deals, and private messages that somehow always seem to leak at the worst possible time. And sitting across from Sierra that night, he must have known that the atmosphere was shifting. He must have felt the storm cloud forming the second Yandy opened her mouth. But did he do anything to stop it? Of course not. He just sat there letting the disaster unfold as if he believed he could talk his way out of it later. Yandy herself has been labeled everything from mastermind to snake because she has this uncanny ability to insert herself into drama and walk away looking like the one who told the truth, the friend who finally said what others were too afraid to say. And yet, if you dig a little deeper, you see the pattern. You see how her so-called revelations always just happen to come at the exact moment she benefits most. Whether it is new followers, new brand deals, or simply reclaiming the spotlight when it feels like it is slipping away. And this dinner was no different, because she sat back sipping her wine until the table was comfortable, and then she dropped her little bomb, smiling as if she had just given a toast, but knowing full well that what she was about to say would burn the entire room down. For weeks, people online had been speculating about cracks in Sierra and Mendeecees' relationship, the matching Instagram captions suddenly drying up, the staged TikTok dances looking a little forced, the smiles not reaching the eyes, and even anonymous sources in shady blogs hinting that Sierra was covering something up. Maybe a secret she thought even Mendeecees did not know. But the one thing nobody expected was Yandy being the one to say it out loud with zero hesitation. And that is exactly what she did. She looked Sierra dead in the eye and laid the truth bare in front of everyone. And the room fell silent for half a second before Sierra's hand flew faster than anyone could process and connected with Mendeecees' face. And that slap echoed like it had been waiting in the universe for years to be released. the sound bouncing off the walls while Yandy just leaned back satisfied like she had accomplished a mission. What makes this even juicier is that the slap was not just about the truth Yandy revealed. It was about every suspicion Sierra had ignored, every rumor she brushed aside, every red flag she convinced herself was just a coincidence. And in that moment, she realized that the narrative she built about loyalty and trust was collapsing right in front of her, and there was no saving it. And the people in the room who thought they came for a calm dinner suddenly found themselves part of a live-action soap opera that no one could have scripted better. And as soon as it happened, phones were out, whispers were flying. And before dessert could even hit the table, the internet already had fragments of the story spreading. It's like wildfire, because nothing this messy stays private for long. And Sierra knew that by the time she got home, the slap, the look, and the bombshell would already be circulating on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, with fans dissecting every angle like detectives hunting for clues in a crime scene. The aftermath of that slap was like throwing gasoline on a fire that was already raging. And what started as a single shocking moment quickly spiraled into a chain of revelations, accusations, and whispered confirmations that no one at that table was ready for. Because after Sierra's hand came down on Mendeecees, the tension did not dissipate, it only grew thicker. And you could practically hear the collective gasps as Yandy leaned forward with that little smirk on her face that said she was not nearly done. She had more to spill, and she knew the world would eat it up. The table became a courtroom without a judge, where everyone was both defendant and witness. And the truth that Yandy decided to drop next was so specific, so layered with detail, that it made the slap feel like just the opening act to a much larger performance. She claimed to have receipts. She claimed that Sierra's picture-perfect loyalty had cracks that went deeper than anyone suspected. And in that moment, the whispers of infidelity, the questions about financial dealings, and the rumors of secret meetings started to sound a lot less like gossip and a lot more like undeniable fact. Mendeecees sat there rubbing his cheek, not from the sting of the slap, but from the weight of being cornered. Because suddenly it was not just Sierra reacting in fury, but the entire room turning their eyes on him, questioning his credibility, questioning his story, and questioning if the man who sold the world on redemption had been playing a role all along. Yandy doubled down. She pulled out messages she claimed to have been sent anonymously. She recited stories from so-called friends of friends who had seen things firsthand. And while normally people might dismiss such things as clout chasing, this time it felt different because the evidence sounded too elaborate, too detailed to have been fabricated in the moment. And even Sierra, still shaking with rage, seemed caught between wanting to deny everything and realizing that she could not, because deep down she suspected some of it might be true. The room shifted into chaos as voices overlapped. Questions flew around the table. People demanded to know why Yandy had stayed quiet until now if she supposedly knew so much. And Yandy answered in the most calculated way possible, saying she wanted to give Sierra the chance to uncover the truth on her own, but when she saw her living in denial, she felt compelled to speak up, painting herself as the reluctant hero of the night, the one willing to take the hate in exchange for honesty. Phones were buzzing under the table, tweets were already going out with half-heard snippets. And by the time dessert plates were cleared, hashtags were trending because in today's world, a private meltdown becomes public domain in minutes. What makes this even more surreal is that while the drama unfolded, Sierra's carefully curated image of strength and control started to fracture right before our eyes. The woman who always posted about being unbothered suddenly looked very bothered indeed. And the rage in her eyes betrayed how betrayed she felt. Not just by Mendeecees, but by Yandy too. Because when your so-called friend becomes the person who exposes you, the pain cuts deeper than any stranger could. And yet, as wild as the scene already was, it still felt like we were only scratching the surface, because every line Yandy dropped hinted at more to come. Bigger secrets, darker truths, and Sierra's silence after the shouting died down was not acceptance, but calculation. The kind of silence that lets you know the next explosion is only a matter of time. And as everyone pushed their chairs back, some storming out, others staying glued to the drama, the certainty settled in that this was no ordinary fallout. This was the beginning of a scandal that would not be contained to one dinner table, one slap, or one viral clip. This was a storm-gathering force, ready to sweep across social media, press outlets, and maybe even into courtrooms if what Yandy implied turned out to be. More than just dinner table theatrics. What happened after that? Night was nothing short of an avalanche, because the story refused to die down, and every hour brought a fresh twist that made the whole situation spiraled further out of control. And what began as a single slap and a truth bomb at a dinner table soon evolved into a nationwide conversation about loyalty, betrayal, and the price of fame in a world where everyone is watching and nobody forgives. By the next morning, clips of the confrontation were everywhere. Blurry phone footage from multiple angles stitched together by fans who had nothing better to do than turn a private disaster into a public spectacle. And with every replay, the slap got louder, the gasps got sharper, and the drama became bigger than the people who started it. Ciara woke up to headlines calling her everything from a scorned queen to an unhinged aggressor. Mendeecees found himself dragged through the mud as people dissected his every past mistake and labeled him a habitual liar, while Yandy basked in the glow of being the center of attention, doubling down on her narrative that she was simply standing up for the truth, even though the world knew she was enjoying every second of the chaos she unleashed. Anonymous sources came crawling out of the woodwork, claiming they had seen Mendeecees in situations that raised eyebrows. Screenshots started popping up that looked incriminating, whether real or fabricated. And suddenly, what was once just dinner table gossip turned into a potential legal nightmare. Because people began to whisper about financial fraud, secret investments, and money that had been funneled into projects no one could account for. Reporters claimed to have leaked bank statements. Bloggers wrote entire essays about shady business connections. And influencers jumped on the bandwagon, using the scandal as clout currency to boost their own engagement. And through it all, Ciara remained mostly silent, except for one cryptic post that read, "Trust is a fragile thing, and when it breaks, cuts deeper than any blade." A post that was reposted thousands of times as fans debated whether it was a shot at Mendeecees, at Yandy, or at both. Meanwhile, Mendeecees tried damage control, giving half-hearted interviews where he denied wrongdoing but stumbled over details, making him look even guiltier in the eyes of the public. And every denial only fueled more memes, more jokes, more disbelief, because by now people had already decided that where there was smoke, there had to be fire. Yandy, on the other hand, played her role like a seasoned professional, releasing carefully timed statements that painted her as both victim and whistleblower, acting as though she had been forced into revealing the truth when in reality she was riding the wave of attention with a smile. And the more she spoke, the more people questioned her motives, asking why she had stayed silent for so long and why she chose that specific night to expose everything. Behind the scenes, insiders whispered that brands were reconsidering their partnerships, contracts were being reviewed, and even certain reality TV producers were questioning whether the mess had crossed the line from entertainment into liability. Because when accusations start involving money and fraud, it is no longer just gossip. It becomes something that attracts lawyers and investigators. Fans speculated about indictments, about subpoenas, about whether this scandal would end careers or even send someone to court. And the fact that no one could separate fact from fiction made the spectacle even more addictive, because every new rumor felt possible in an environment where the line between reality and performance had completely dissolved. Ciara's silence began to feel heavier with each passing day, like the calm before another storm. And those close to her claimed she was considering legal action, not just against Mendeecees, but against Yandy for defamation, which only added another layer of suspense to an already tangled web. Public opinion became a battlefield, with hashtags dividing fans into camps. Some defending Ciara as a woman betrayed and pushed to her breaking point, others condemning her for resorting to violence, and still others crowning Yandy as the unlikely hero who dared to pull back the curtain on the lies. The irony in all this was that what began as a private conflict between three people had now escalated into a cultural event, dissected by millions, turned into think pieces, parodied in skits, and transformed into endless content for anyone hungry for drama. And yet the true consequences still loomed in the background because money trails do not disappear with memes. Legal threats do not vanish with hashtags. And the trust that was shattered that night could not be glued back together by public statements or staged reconciliations. As the dust settled slightly and the media frenzy shifted into investigative mode, it became clear that the L spout was far from over. Because while the slap might have been the sound that echoed first, it was the silence that followed that carried the real weight. The kind of silence that signals more revelations, more accusations, and more explosions still waiting to come. And the world watched with bated breath, knowing that this saga was not ending anytime soon. And now, here he is, are standing at the edge of this storm with the pieces of shattered trust still scattered across the table and the echoes of that slap still replaying in every corner of the internet. And the real question becomes, what do we do with it? Because scandals like this are not just about the people involved, they are about the culture that consumes them. The fans who dissect every glance, every caption, every rumor, and the way social media can turn a private implosion into a global event overnight. And that is exactly why I need you to step in right now, because your voice, your reaction, your perspective is what keeps this conversation alive. Do you believe Sierra was justified in her fury, or do you think she lost control and handed Mendeecees the sympathy card? Do you see Yandy as a brave truth teller or a master manipulator who thrives on attention? And most importantly, what do you think the real fallout will be, because we are talking about reputations, brands, money, and maybe even the law stepping in. So drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you want more raw, unfiltered breakdowns. And subscribe, because trust me, this story is far from over.